this is Felipe. Welcome back to episode 3 of Becoming a Better Singer. If you didn't watch episode 2, I would highly recommend that you go back and watch episode 2. If you haven't watched any episodes, I suggest you start from episode 1, or else you're going to miss out on a lot of information. But if you've seen those episodes before, or if you've studied music and you're comfortable, then feel free to continue with this video. My suggestion is to watch all the videos from the beginning, and the videos aren't very long, so it should be something easy, something that you can get through real quick. So, making reference to what was discussed in episode 2, we discussed voice ranges and the categories of voices. We also got some homework, and the homework was to get a piano and check your voice range. And if you didn't have a piano, there were also instructions in that video with regards to how to check your voice range. So I did the homework, so let's go and watch that video to see how I did. C, 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 B, 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 A, 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 G, 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 F, 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 E, 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 D, 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 C, 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 D, A, G, 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 F, 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 C, B, E, E, F, G, Okay. Surprise, surprise. Well, it was somewhat surprising for me, and at the same time, it wasn't so surprising. As you can see from the video, I was able to go down, and I was able to, in fact, go low enough to cover all the natural notes in the bass voice range. In fact, I was even able to go a bit lower. Not very useful, that last note. My voice was so low at that time that last note, I wouldn't really be expected to reproduce that in a song, because it was just so low. I was like on the borderline. I was like close to quitting. It's the last note I could reach. On the other hand, on the upper end of the scale, I was able to go much, about 2 notes higher than what the bass singer would be able to go to. That's kind of expected given my age. As you get older, your voice cords, your vocal cords tend to get a bit longer, and so you develop a deeper voice, and you may start to lose some of the higher notes. I feel comfortable though that maybe if I did more singing at the higher notes, I could probably get that last note I missed out on. And who knows, with some practice, I could probably even go 2 notes higher if I were to sing at that range all the time. Unfortunately, I don't. I tend to sing more or less around middle C and probably lower, which is, the typical range for a baritone. And I have a falsetto. So with my falsetto, I could probably go up to a C, a high C. So that's fine. That's fine for me. I don't need anything beyond that. So basically what we can see here is that as far as singing is concerned, while most people say, wow, did you hear that high note that he hit? But while those extremes are nice to have in music or in singing and vocalizing, it's more important to have a wide range. We're going to talk some more about that later. A word of caution. If you have kids and you really want your kids to sing or you think they have a good voice, remember something. Your kids, their voice will change at puberty. That's something you cannot avoid. Prior to puberty, I was singing soprano. The choir I was in, the choir director would say, go sing with the girls, you're a soprano. I had a high pitched voice. With puberty, my voice changed. And all the changes that came with that. When you're doing this exercise with kids who haven't hit puberty yet, be very careful because the rules don't always apply. After puberty, when the hormones are released and their voices have changed, then you can get a better idea of what category they're in. But regardless of whether you're at puberty, before or after, it's never a bad thing to work on your range. You can always improve on your range. The lower end, not so much, because that is going to depend on the length of your vocal cords. For the higher end, yes, with some practice, sometimes you can go probably a note or two higher with some effort. Now, there's a thing called your modal range. And as you can see from the diagram, your modal range is somewhere in the middle of your natural range. So the modal range is the range that you normally speak in. Normally we speak within a more limited range than what we sing in. And when most people try to sing, they try to sing within that range that they're used to using for everyday conversation. And of course, when they have to go higher, because usually a song requires a greater range, then that's when their voice breaks or they get uncomfortable and they get lost. So in practicing or becoming a better singer, we want to learn to operate outside that modal range, and that becomes a problem for a lot of people. So right now we're going to talk about how to work on that and how to overcome that uncomfortable feeling that most people encounter. So let me illustrate what exactly I'm referring to. So I'm going to get my violin, and when most people try to sing, especially at higher ranges, here's what tends to happen, or if they're not used to singing. So this is a violin, yes, I know. But a violin, just like vocal cords, they're basically strings. Different material, but they're basically strings. They vibrate. So because the person who is learning the violin doesn't know the proper way to make the strings vibrate, they'll make that scratchy sound. But once they learn that control, so it sounds much better. Usually you get that scratchy sound on the violin because people are pressing too hard with the bow. But once you learn to use that bow properly, and so it sounds much better. Now, something similar tends to happen with people who are trying to sing or learning to sing or singing karaoke, whatever. They haven't developed this control of their vocal cords. And some people are saying, well, I don't know what to do. It's hard controlling your vocal cords. No, that's not true. You do it all the time. How do I know? When you imitate people. Come on, people. You can do this. We can learn to sing. I know you can do it. We imitate people all the time. And whenever we imitate people, we modify our voices to sound like them. Basically what you're doing, you're changing your vocal cords. So you can do it. You can learn to modify the sound coming from your vocal cords to get those notes or to give a more melodious tone. Now, why do I say a more melodious tone? In your modal range, that range that you use for basic everyday conversation, you're comfortable with that. You don't have to make a lot of effort to speak normally. But once you go outside that range that you're used to using for everyday conversation, the notes are either going to be lower or higher. And what happens is that they require more adjustment so that they can sound delightful, so that they can sound pleasant. So the way you adjust your vocal cords for everyday conversation is not the same way you're going to adjust your vocal cords when you're singing higher or lower notes. Now, How you control your vocal cords, that's not something I can teach you. That's something you have to do on your own because it depends on you, the individual. One thing that will definitely help is knowing what you sound like. And a lot of people say, well, how do I do that? You've probably seen some professional singers do this while they're singing, cover one ear. And some people wonder, why did they do that? Do they have a radio? Is someone giving them instructions? Is the producer saying, okay, do this? No. What happens is that sometimes when you're singing and you have the band playing or it's so loud that it's very difficult to hear yourself. And you need that feedback when you're singing. You need to know what you sound like so that you can make adjustments. If you don't know what you sound like, then you could sing anything. Think of a deaf person. A deaf person will make sounds. They have no idea that they're making those sounds. And to us, it sounds weird, but they don't know because they can't hear themselves. And that's why it's so difficult for deaf people to understand what we're saying. They just don't know what sound is like. And if they're speaking to you, they don't know what they're saying. They can't hear what they're saying. So even if they say the word wrong, let's say this is someone who used to hear before and they lost their hearing, they could try to speak, but if you can't hear yourself, you don't know if you're saying things properly. And that's a problem. So if you cover that air when you talk, then you get a feedback. You prevent the outside sound from coming in and you hear yourself speaking. With the other air, you can hear the music. And you can compare the music with what you're hearing from your own voice box, and that will help you to control your voice, control those vocal cords, and just get things flowing in harmony. So from what we've discussed this evening, we can see clearly that having a wide range is better than having a very high note or a very low note. It's better to have a wide range. One of the benefits of having a wider range is that you could record a song on your own. In music, if you have a 3-octave range, that's good. That's good. You're probably asking, okay, what's a 3-octave range? So in music, the notes start at A and they go all the way to G, and then you start over again, then you keep going higher and higher and higher. Okay, so let's say you start at A. This is just an example. When you get to the higher A, that's called an octave. Oct coming from 8, octave. And then if you go another 8 notes and go to the other A, that's another octave. So if you have a 3-octave range, you're good. And as you can see, as a baritone, I have an almost 3-octave range. But the top end I can always fill out with my falsetto voice. So if you check out the link below, there are 2 songs that I've released, 2 singles, and I did all the vocals myself. I did the bass, I did the baritone, and I did the falsetto. And I basically recorded 3 different tracks, I recorded myself. So it gives you versatility. And Mariah Carey is another person who, she has an amazing range. Amazing range, more than 3. I'm not going to tell you how many octaves she can cover, but you can do the research on that. So in a lot of songs, she does her own background vocals. She, will use other people sometimes, to get different sounds in. But she does a lot of her own background vocals because she can cover a wide range. She can go very deep and she can also go very high into the whistling range. So that's very impressive. I've never seen another singer like her, and I'm not sure if we ever will because she's just that good. So today we've covered how to work on your vocal cords, getting that range, and just fine-tuning your voice by covering one air, listening to yourself, and then listening to the music. So go ahead and listen to that music at the link I'm going to put down below, and I'll see you in episode 4.